Welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Timmy and I'm the creative director of Tom Fashion Empire. So in today's video guys, we are going to be learning how to cut and off shoulder bodies. So it's so easy to make and I know that you will enjoy watching it. So if this is something you would love to know how to make for yourself, kindly stay tuned and let's get this started. So guys, which measurement do we need? We need some measurements which you can go ahead and take them before we start cutting. You need your back measurement, you need your armpit measurement, you need your bust, your hip circumference, your waist circumference, the top length, and the sleeve length. So, guys, let's get to work. So, this is the fabric I'm going to be working with. Yeah, I have more than 2 yards, but I'm not going to consume everything. So, now the first thing we are going to do is to go ahead and place our fabric on fold. So you want to go ahead, like I said, mine is going to have a opening at the front, like a shirt. I'm making a shirt off shoulder. In this case now, I'll have to cut the front first because of the shirt opening. So the first thing I'll consider is the widest part of my measurement. The widest measurement I have is my hip measurement, which is 46. So what I'm going to do is to divide the hip measurement by 4, which is 46 divided by 4, then plus my seam allowance and plus the button space and the buttonhole space. So let's get to that. I need to place some fold for my fabric is 15 and a half, but I'm going to round it up to 16. So you want to go ahead and you want to do the same thing. So your hip measurement divided by 4, any part of your measurement that is divided, go ahead and divide it by 4. Then you add your, if you are going to be making a normal top, add your zip allowance. That is if it is going to have a zip allowance, add your zip allowance. Then for me, mine is going to be a off shoulder shirt, so that's where I'm going to add the amount of space I need for a shirt, then plus my seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead now and measure my 15 and a half or 16. So I have my 16 now. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead, measure the 16 all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and measure. This is my 16 and here too is my 16. So now once I get that, the next thing I want to do is to go ahead and measure my top length. My top length is going to be 27. That is my normal top length is 25, then plus 2, that is 27. Now because it's an off shoulder, there's something about off shoulder. Shoulder, you determine how off you want it to be. The normal, at least you subtract 4 inches from whatever your measurement is. So you can do 4, 5, 6, you can do up to 7. But mind you, whenever you are doing up to 6, 7, know that it is going to be showing your clips. So if you know that you are not comfortable with showing any part of your body, just stick to 4 or 5. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be working with 5. So it simply means that my top length is 27. So for me to measure the 27, I'm going to come up here. Then I'll take my tape rule, meaning that I'm subtracting the 5 inches from my measurement. Then I'll come to this part here and mark 27. So I'll come to this side also, taking away 5 from it, then mark 27. So you can as well subtract 5 or whatever you're going to be using from your measurement and you mark where it get to. So once I do that, I'm going to go ahead and mark this one like so. So now it simply means that this is the hem of my top now. So the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and measure 1.5. This is for the facing. I'm doing this because I'm making a shirt. This one is going to be a shirt, so that's why it's like this. Interfacing. So whatever interfacing you are going to be using, this is the part that will hold it. Then I'm going to go ahead and measure my buttonhole space, which is just going to be 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead measure the 1 inch and connect it all the way. So now let's go ahead and put all our measurements. All the measurements is going to start from here, not from here, neither is it from here. It's going to start from this line here. So now the back is 15. Now my 15, I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 2, which is 7.5. Because it is off shoulder, remember off shoulder bodies covers the chest area. And if you want to check, you can go ahead measure your chest area, the across front, then measure the shoulder to shoulder. You will notice that it is not the same thing. So I'm simply going to do this now. So instead of using 7.5, you can go ahead subtract 1 inch from. I'm going to measure my 6.5. I'm using 6.5. Once you measure the 6.5 for the chest line, now we are going to call this the chest line, not the back line again. Now, remember I said you subtract 5. So my armpit line, which is the same thing as my bust line, is 8.5. So I'm going to remove the 5 inches, then mark the 8.5 point this way. You can go ahead, mark it all the way, 5 inches out, then you can go ahead and bring your taper and just go ahead and measure 3.5. It's still the same thing, you can see. So once I do that, I'm going to just connect this way up, so that this one gives me a guideline when shaping my armhole. So once I do that, the next thing I'm going to do is to go ahead and place my bust measurement. My bust measurement is 38. I'm going to divide it by 4. It's 9.5. Note that I'm placing my tape rule at this point. I'm going to go ahead, measure my 9.5. And I'm going to use just 1.5 as my seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and place it there. So what I'm going to do now is to just go ahead, connect everything on a straight line. So this is why I have here now. Go ahead, come out here by half, so that I can go ahead and just shape my armhole once and for all. So I'm going to do this now. You just want to place it here this way. Make sure that everything is balanced. So I'm able to do one because of my measurement. So if you are on a slimmer side, what you come here by might be just half, which is okay. So once we are done with that side, the next thing is to get the waistline. So I'm going to subtract my half. My half length is 16. So I'm just going to go ahead, subtract the half and mark my 16. So once I do that, I'm going to divide my waist measurement by 4. My waist measurement is 32 divided by 4, we have 8. And I'm going to mark my 8 here. So from that 8, I'll add 1.5 to as my seam allowance. Now, at the hem of my top, which is where I'm going to be bringing my hip measurement, which is 46 divided by 4, we have 11.5, which is here. I'm going to mark it. Then I'll mark my 1.5. Now, once I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and connect it. Notice that, let me just mark this first. Let me mark this before now this is this, and this now is this. Now, if you are shapy and you notice that this place is too sharp, just go ahead. You can come use 2 here instead of 1, and like this and do this. It's just you trying to blend it. So you just come out here by half so that you can shape it perfectly. I hope you understand. Now, once you do that, the next thing you are going to do is to come up here. You can come up here by half, you can do 1, you can do 2, depending on how shaped you want your side to be. But the basic one is just to come up here by half. So you just go ahead, you just go, and you blend it. That's it for the shaping. Another thing is, if you want to shape the neckline, you can go ahead and shape it. But for me, I'm not going to shape my neckline. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut it. So now this is simply what I have. I'm going to go ahead and pin it before I start moving it, because this is what I'll use to cut my back. So at this point, all I did was just to place the buttonhole space and the facing space on fold so that I can use it to cut the back. I'm going to place the remaining part that I have left. Now at the end now, since I have 13 inches, it's up to 13. So that means I'm going to turn it over. Let's do that together. So now this is it. The center back must be on fold. Aside if you're adding pleats, which I'm not adding. So I'm going to simply go ahead, place this way. So if you know how to cut, you wouldn't need to use too much. So now that's it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. So that you can just go ahead cut all of this. So now this is it. So if you want any design, like I said, you can go ahead, go down by two, go down by but whatever you want, however you want your neck shaping to be mindful if you don't want it to show your boobs. And if you're comfortable with it showing, just do it. So now basically this is how to cut a off shoulder bodies. I hope you learned something. Thank you for staying. See you. Bye bye.